It's 4:04. Let me call this meeting to order. We'll start with our consent agenda. There are two items on the consent agenda. One is board absences. We have Babette and Maria who are absent. If you were listening earlier, Tim is just running late because of his job. Besides the board absences in the consent agenda, we have approval of the August 18th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Christina, thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion, any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, do I hear approval of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody else?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Thank you. So I forgot to say welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. It's been a long day, kind of a rainy day. We have a different agenda today. If you look at the agenda, a copy of it is on the trustee webpage on the OCPL website, along with pre-reads. We're going to spend a good portion of this meeting in an executive session towards the end of the meeting. In order to accommodate that, we're going to not be giving reports, but actually just looking for questions on reports. This is something I actually want to do going forward anyway, rather than everyone kind of reading quotation marks their reports, just assuming that we've read them in advance and then can offer up questions. The reports that are listed on the agenda do not match the pre-reads because the agenda was done before the pre-reads were sent out. And so there are some differences between the two. The staff reports are something that we'll talk about today for a little bit also. In terms of what information we want from OCPL as board members, recognizing that it's the director, it's Christian, who decides what information comes to the board. That's been every director's prerogative. And so, we should give him advice now and in the future about what we're looking for. And so we'll talk about that in a bit. But assuming that you read the pre-reads or read some of the pre-reads, any questions that you want to raise about any of the pre-reads? Or any comments?
Jill, I have just a couple questions.
Sure.
About the president's report on page 2. I wasn't clear on what FOCL meant in the second paragraph.
That's the Friends of the Central Library. That's focal. They're the ones who do the speaker series that helps to raise funds for OCPL every year. And Kim, who on my screen you're sitting next to, is the executive director of Focal.
And on the last paragraph, the New York Library Association annual conference, the October 28th and 29th virtual session, do we have to pay for that?
Yes.
Is that price the $299 or?
Jill? Sorry, this is Mandy. I believe it's $149 for just the virtual.
Yeah. Thank you, Mandy. So you can attend the virtual conference or you can attend both. They do not duplicate each other. So the virtual conference is different content than the in-person conference in Syracuse. And I believe some of the specific sessions for trustees and for Friends of the Library are part of the in-person conference.
Okay, and will Heidi be talking about what nonprofit life cycle is?
We've, not today.
Okay,
She and I, after I sent out my report, she and I followed up, and we're going to be talking a bit about that in the future, probably next week.
okay,
And to gather some more information. Information has been given to the board during the spring about nonprofit life cycle, but it's been a few months. And so she wanted an opportunity to talk with me about pricing and availability.
okay, that's all I have.
If you
No.
want, I can resend the information on what the approach is.
If you can, whenever, yeah, sure. I probably have it. I just can't remember what that is about. So I didn't know if we were going to talk about it today. So no problem. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, Lenore's question raised one question. Do we as trustees want to reimburse any trustees that attend? They can take it as a tax write-off, or we can consider, I mean, if people don't need it, we might consider reimbursing them, if not fully, at least partially.
I have no opinion on that. I don't know what's been done in the past.
Well, it's certainly legal and legitimate. We can defer the question for a while, but I mean, I think that's something we should consider, especially for new trustees.
The early registration ends at the end of this month. And so trustees could register with the idea that we might reimburse, or again, they can take it as a tax deduction because it's educational.
Well, before we're done, maybe I'll introduce the resolution and it can go up or down. Wait till everybody's here. That's
Okay.
coming.
We've done that in the past.
Okay, thank you, Gail. Anything else about the pre-reads?
Jill, do you see Christian's hand is up?
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Hey, Jill, I just wanted to kind of chime in on that and encourage the trustees to at least think about it. The NYLA conference is always a really good conference. There's a lot of stuff there, and there is a big tradition of trustees going to NYLA. I've had a lot of really wonderful conversations with trustees at NYLA. There's a lot of material there that is of interest to trustees, and the fact that we're having a pretty large library conference literally in our backyard is a really great opportunity. So I would just encourage folks to go to it. If you have any questions, please contact me. I'm happy to speak to that. I've had a lot of great experiences at NYLA in the past.
Very good point. So at some point in the meeting, I will introduce a resolution to offer to reimburse trustees that want to attend.
Ed, thank you. And I don't normally try to call out things in chat because it's like having a side conversation, but you should know that there are some local arrangements, things happening because it is here in Syracuse, and the conference has not been in Syracuse for a long, long time. And so this really is kind of almost like a once in a lifetime opportunity. NYLA, and there's reasons for that, which I won't go into, but we expect that there'll be some good participation from library staff in the region. I do have one question about, I think it might have been a report from Dawn. I don't think she's here. So Christian, I saw that there's hiring happening within
Yes.
the city.
A lot.
A lot, but I also saw one resignation. Can you talk about the impact of that?
Yeah, so the resignation was Kathy. Kathy, our communications director, has resigned. It's going to be a big loss. Kathy's been around for a while. Her loss will be really felt. It was a difficult position for her. She came in at the top of the salary range, and really hasn't been able to get a bump from the county in a long time. And she had another opportunity that was a national level organization and would have her get better pay. And I'm very happy for her. I think that it's a really wonderful opportunity, and I'm glad to see that she's doing it. It'll be a loss for us. It'll be a considerable loss for us, especially since the communications team has gone from 4 people, and then losing the director of communication will be down to 1. And that's a lot. But we're already starting to talk a little bit about, doing a little bit more cooperative communication, some shared communication, having a space for brainstorming to at least fill in the gap a little bit. Now, that position is a civil service position. There is a list. So we'll start recruiting. We don't have to recruit from the ground up. There's already some put stuff in place there for that recruitment. So, I mean, it's a big loss, and Kathy will be missed. I will personally miss her. She's always been very kind and a good voice and a good person for me to touch base with. And she's always given me really great perspective and has connected to me a lot of people in Syracuse. It's going to be definitely a loss, but it's one that I think is going to ultimately be better for her. And we'll be able to just, we'll be able to keep rolling on with it. And it's something that we're trying to, we are going to try to address and get that filled as quickly as possible. Was that the one you were talking about, Jill? That's what we're talking
Yes,
about. Right? Yep.
yes, thank you.
Yep, it's a big loss, but ultimately it'll be good for her, and we'll muddle through.
In terms of shared communication work, is that shared with the county? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, county has a communications department, but they do pretty high level stuff. So it's newspaper, press conferences, that kind of stuff. The day-to-day operations of communication, and where Kathy has been, particularly, vital and ingenious, is that our communications are constant. So we have blasts and Facebook stuff and updates and articles happening constantly. It's a much higher turnover position than a standard communications position in county is. There's a lot more kind of nitty-gritty stuff. Along the way, it would be great for us to see if there's a way for this to not, one of the problems that we had as an organization was that just a lot of this stuff would wash up on Kathy's shores, and it would just be a lot of beach for her to cover. I mean, she would have a lot of area to cover. So I'm very interested in seeing how we can do a little bit of more of a distributed load. Maybe branches would be involved in their personal communication. We could do more with the members to have joint communication and push back some of that to them to have a cooperative effort on. So, we have to kind of change the way the communications is being done as a result of Kathy leaving, and hopefully we'll come out of it as strong. It'll take us a little while to recoup the loss of a key personnel, but I think we can get there, and I think it's going to look good in the end.
I know that she'll be missed.
Very much so, professionally and personally. She's always a great person to have around on the floor, and I have gained a lot from her knowledge.
So I just want to, welcome Tim, who's. I still want to see if there's any comments about the pre-reads. I will point out that Kim Schlesinger is here. And is there any update about last night, since that was the first focal event?
I considered it a great success. I feel like everyone that attended, it felt good to be back into that theater after 16 months. I thought that our author was engaging and charming and funny. I thought it was a great mix. We did have about 231 people in the theater with about 180 live streaming. And we were able to get through all the protocol that was required by the county and the author talent themselves. So, like anything, it was a first for me. So we found areas that we need to improve on and things that worked out great. So we'll just move forward with Jason Reynolds, who will be on October 26th. So we're looking forward to presenting him. He's a rock star, as you all know. Most of you know are YA readers. So thanks for the opportunity, Jill.
You're welcome.
Bill, may I add 2 things? Maybe
Sure.
it'll be 3, but your letter was, I thought, well done in the program. Christian's write-up was well done, and Christian did the intro, and it was short and sweet, and he got a few good laughs. So I think all in all, given that it's the first use of the theater in 16 months, I think it went well. And I thought it, and she did she had great humor, and lots of people went away very impressed with her delivery. Well, I'd say her presentation.
There was a lot of library love in the room last night. It was a very joyful library space. It was a very powerful talk. I mean, she talked about her mom taking her to the library, which took me back to my mom taking me to the library. It was a really, really strong talk, and a really great talk to kick off the season and focus on the work that we do together. I was super impressed. And Kim did great. It was so smooth.
Oh, thanks. I might add that library love. I was walking up the steps and there were 6 SU students and I said, hey, are you guys journalism majors? And they were all library science majors. So it's the next generation. So it was exciting.
Nice to hear. So let's move on. You know, for some of us, we've been on this board for a while. We've seen lots of reports come our way. For those of you who are relatively new, you've seen, you know, a variety of reports come your way. Also, it tends to be kind of a tsunami of reports every month. And I don't expect us to come to an answer today, but I wonder, as we think forward, what type of information as board members would be useful to us to be receiving on an ongoing basis that would help us understand the health and the direction of OCPL.
Hey, folks, I just want to chime in. I'm really interested in this conversation, and if it happens here, or if it happens in a long-term thing, I'd love to know. You know, I think when I came in, folks said that they were getting too much reports and then too little and too much. And I just want, you know, I want this to be a space where you folks are getting the support that you need in order to support the institution. So if you give me a better feel of what you're looking for, I'd be happy to work with them, you know, with you to do that. And my team will be very happy to work with you on that as well.
Sam?
So I guess maybe as a question to your question, and maybe to Christian as well, to what point do you feel like things are at least sort of on a steady pace again, given, you know, COVID continues to be a thing, but the reports that I read seem like everything is kind of open in the way that we would expect it would have been, and so maybe there's different visitorship, those kind of things, but at least it's maybe not crisis mode quite the same way. So I guess the question would be, is that accurate? And if so, maybe it's time to talk a little bit more about, all right, well, what are the things that we can better assess the health of the organization being at, rather than saying, well, life is crazy and it's impossible to think about anything other than just how do we manage today?
Yeah, Sam, Jill, can I answer? Are you comfortable with me taking that one? Yeah, Sam, right now things are going pretty smoothly. I mean, we're bringing on staff. We're still a little short staffed. People are still kind of reeling. We're having to be on the bounce when it comes to COVID stuff. And that remains, you know, that remains. And one of the biggest issues, you know, for me as a library professional right now is that we're still not doing in-person programming. Now, I know that you know what that means because families do this stuff. We all do this stuff. Right now, that's just not something that I'm comfortable doing right now, but we're getting there. Other than that, though, people are working hard. We are moving forward. We're looking at things that are not crises. We're looking at things that are, you know, Becky's in place. She's doing great, amazing work to be looking at our buildings and have a real structural approach to our buildings. You know, Katie's doing more work in technical services. Dawn is finally starting to, you know, lift her head up from a sea of HR stuff that she's been mired in and start, you know, working, doing her magic as the assistant director and the real leader of the branches. So right now, yeah, Sam, we're definitely starting to get more stable. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It's still, COVID's still everywhere, you know, and it's still something we're thinking about. And it's still something we're concerned about. And I think we had a chance to talk about this a little bit. I was really impressed by our organization and how quickly we pivoted to the new return of the mask crisis. We went to masks, we went to temp checks, we went to staff temp checks. Every one of those would have been a significant change that honestly would have taken us like a week and a half to pivot to when I showed up, and we did it in 24 hours. People are incredibly responsive to this stuff. So yeah, we're still got a pandemic going on. We're still in the midst of a crisis. We're still in the midst of a bunch of crises, but our staffing is coming back. Our libraries are opening. Our budget is looking better. So yeah, I think everybody is trying to just get back to the work of the library, and kind of what that looks like. And that's certainly happening out in the member libraries too. They're really holding the line on the mask thing. And I want to call them out too, because I see, you got to wear a mask on the sign at every library, which I, as the father of a 7-year-old, I really appreciate that, so people are still cognizant of it, but I think we're all starting to kind of loosen up our shoulders and want to get back into the work that we do. So in that being the case, yeah, I'd love to have, you and I have had some great conversations about data and what kind of data points we can look at. And I'm hoping that now we are going to be in a little bit more of a stable place. I'm still very invested in, figuring out how we can get at some of the fundamental issues of poverty and disparity in the community. I've been reading some great statistical rundowns, ones you probably were involved in from the city of Syracuse. And that kind of stuff, I think, would be stuff that we could all really start to address and start to lean in on. We've got a really great program going with the Communities for Immunities, which I think is going to go well for us. Again, that's a public health program that we're doing in partnership with the museums. So we're going to be talking to the MOST and Rosamond Gifford, and the Everson and Onondaga Historical. And again, these are things that I'd love to put a pin in and say, how do we do this not only in this public health moment, but then expand it on? Does that answer the question, or did I just ramble?
No, I think it does, and so then I think over the summer, however long ago that was when we met with Jerry Nichols, I think his recommendation was like, wait for like 6 months before you do all sorts of strategic planning. I think we're probably getting close to 6 months somehow, and so again, Jill, I don't know exactly what would be useful to see. I think a lot of it has been what does the board and what does Christian want to see from the organization and everybody else that's involved here, and then can those reports kind of reflect that and give us the insight to say, yep, things are great, or no, they aren't, so how do we improve?
And having come out of the MOU discussion, I think one of the things for all of us to think about is what gives us a better idea of what's happening with the system. And I don't know what that means, but we know that the value that the system gives to its members is vast, and it's not just delivery, it's not just some other specific items. And so how do we get our arms around kind of the health of the system? And so that might be something for the member directors and the system, whatever the other group is, to help us think about.
Jill, I think it's certainly an important question, but I hope you don't expect to have a final answer today. I think this takes some time for us to say, as Sam said in part, what do we want the library to be? And so how do we measure it? But there's so many libraries out there, so many trustees out there. I'd like to ask a few people what they use to evaluate their systems and see if it's available to us at some point. I mean, there are a lot of good libraries out there that may be doing this better than we are and could be of help to us. And of course, maybe NYLA is an opportunity to talk to other trustees, and maybe there's even a program on it. I don't know, but I think it's something that has to evolve over maybe a course of months.
Yeah. No, Ed, I didn't say that I was looking for an answer today, but I want to start the conversation. And partially because I know these reports take time from staff, and so they should be producing the reports that are most meaningful for us. We can look at what other libraries are doing. If you want to do some of that, looking around at some of the other systems, or work with someone else to look at other systems. Some produce very long reports. I think we should just think about what makes sense for us.
I agree with that. We would tailor whatever it is. And I didn't mean it to suggest you expect that I don't take personally what I said. I didn't mean it to offend.
Christian?
Jill, sorry. I just wanted to do a quick report out. I heard from Alyssa today that we have 9 member libraries who have signed the MOU and returned it to her. All of the feedback that I'm getting so far has been quite positive about the MOUs moving forward. So I think that's been really great. Ed, just to speak to your questions real quickly, when I first started, I had started to develop a cohort of libraries that were similar to us in size and makeup. So similar size, small city, mid city, in semi-rural areas, all kind of stuff. There was a whole profile I had worked up, and I had about a half a dozen of these libraries I was in contact with. I'd be happy to pass on that list if you wanted to reach out to people who were very much of a similar stance and mode, and have a conversation with them, or whatever you want. I know you know tons of people in the system.
No, I would certainly start there. Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Yeah, I can send that out to folks and we can talk from there if you'd like.
Tim?
Yeah, so we're still on information the board wants to see, number 4. Yeah. So my instant reaction, and this probably comes from my background experience with not-for-profits. I know we don't control the budget per se, but my immediate reaction was, born out of the experience this summer, that it kind of just hit real hard and fast. If we could have some kind of fiscal updates, maybe not monthly, but even some quarterly. And because I was very impressed with, the staff's familiarity and ability to give us the financial information. And I'm not talking about micromanaging how many reams of paper or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just the broad picture of the financials. I think, if not regularly, at least quarterly, would be something that I'd be interested in.
And yes, and we often get a lot of numbers, but there's a story behind the numbers that that takes a little telling, and having that in a more structured update, I think would be useful. Christian, your hand is up again, or still up? Okay. So think about this, because this meeting should be helpful for all of us. It should lead us into discussions that are helpful for OCPL overall, as we're thinking about what the library is doing and thinking about the future. Sam is a data person, so data and information and stories are all part of this kind of helpful information to move us forward. And if we can start to think about what the information really is, I know this will be helpful to Christian and helpful to every other person who's creating a report, because they'll create the things that will actually be helpful to us, and not, I don't want the reports to be time wasters for anybody. Let me move on to resolutions. We have 2 resolutions, one that is extremely long. And I think Ed is trying to craft the 3rd resolution. So the first resolution is that we approve the grant application submission to M&T Charitable Foundation for up to $10,000 to support the 2022 Summer Learning Program. And I believe that we received a copy of that grant application. Will someone move that motion?
I'll move it.
Ed, thank you. Do I hear a second?
A second.
That's Etta, thank you.
Yes.
Any discussion of this grant application?
Jill, do you see the hand up? Tim has his hand up. Sorry.
I don't know how to turn that off. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. I think you can click it again.
It's the same place where you put it up. You can, I can lower it for you. There you go.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm still a Zoom novice. This is only my second or third time on it, so.
Any discussion about the M&T Charitable Foundation? This is something that happens every year. We look for funding to help us with
I'd
summer
like
reading.
to call the question.
Thank you. I will do it by roll call. Etta,
Yes.
Lenore,
Aye.
Sam,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Tim.
Aye.
I'm also aye. It is approved unanimously. Thank you. Resolution 2132 is not the legal holiday calendar, but is construction aid for all of our member libraries, or most of our member libraries. It is a very long list. And so it's one resolution that goes through funding for these different libraries. Can I have someone make the motion?
I'll move it and should add that it's pretty routine. We've done this for years and
Yes.
years.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Christina, thank you. I see that Christian has his hand up.
Sorry, I just wanted to call out and point out that this was an enormous amount of work by Amanda Chavuli, who's been working on this for months. This is a huge gain for us. We took a lot of money off the table due to Amanda's work. There was some scraps from other people that she swept up into our coffers. This was a lot of very hard work by Amanda and Mark, and I just wanted to call that out in public. Thank you.
Assuming that there's no discussion, let me ask for votes. So Etta,
Yes.
Lenore,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
and Tim.
Aye.
Thank you. It
Did you-
passes.
Did you vote, Jill?
I'm an aye also. Passes
Okay.
unanimously. Ed, do you have a resolution about funding for NYLA?
Yes, I just very briefly, and I may need to clarification on the amount, but I'm proposing a resolution to reimburse OCPL trustees for attendance at this fall's NYLA conference. There was a note from Meg Van Pat, I think, or no, it was Mandy, that the full conference would be $99. One day only would be $30, and I take it the virtual was $149 that we heard earlier.
I would say that can we leave the amounts out and just say it's for virtual or in person? Or do we need the amounts?
You might write it that you will cover the cost of registration and transportation to the event, and then leave that as an open-ended question, but that's just my suggestion.
Or you can do up to an amount for each person. You can say up to, X amount of dollars.
What was the 149 that we heard so that we know that somebody mentioned $149? Was that Mandy?
Yes, I'm sorry, Ed, that's for the virtual conference. So just
For
the
the
2
virtual.
days. Yep, the 2 days in October.
And Ed, are you just proposing just the cost? Because you mentioned transportation or something, or is this just the registration fee?
Well, I was concerned about the registration, but we could include the cost. It's got to be minimal for transportation because it's in Syracuse.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we could, if, let's say up to the cost of the full conference, the virtual, or the 1 day plus transportation, we'll leave the request for transportation up to the trustee. If it's $1 and they want to put it in, that's fine. If it's $10, they can put it in. But I think it's important that we get, that we meet other trustees and that as many, especially new people, get to attend even for a day, maybe to learn more or to go in and out. If they're full conference registration, they could probably go in and out during the couple of day period. So this is really to encourage that.
And let me just note that I'm looking at the registration page. I believe it is higher than what was in chat because the assumption is for trustees and retirees that you're members of NYLA and you get the lower rate. So if we can just say registration and we can ensure that either people are NYLA members or not, and they get into the right registration categories.
That's fine. If it's unclear, better to leave it out and just say attendance, either virtually or in person, including, oh, there was something that Mandy just put up.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Okay.
about it.
Well, we'll just leave it out. We'll just say virtual or in person, including travel, if appropriate. There might be parking, who knows, that is expensive.
Okay, that's
No,
what I
we're-
have. I
We're
have
not
on
paying for parking tickets, though.
Souvenirs, Ed?
Say again?
Do we get souvenirs? Souvenir funding?
Okay.
Cotton
so,
candy or,
So do
okay, we need a second.
Well, they also have to make sure they bring receipts or they can't be reimbursed.
Okay, that's outside of the motion.
Okay, well,
Um,
it's just so they know.
So
I'll second it.
thank you, Tim. That was Ed and Tim. Any further discussion?
They got to share the swag.
Okay.
We are getting some swag of our own, by the way, and I've actually just went onto the conference website and I just pulled up a couple of programs and dropped them in the chat that would be of use.
Okay.
Sorry, you're voting.
We need to move on because I want. I'm
Okay,
being
call the
mindful of time.
question.
Etta,
Aye.
Lenore,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes,
Tim.
I'm
also yes. Thank you. Okay. I need a motion to move us into executive session. I also need to create breakout rooms for the executive session.
I'll make the motion. It is, be it resolved that per section 105 of the Public Officers Law, this board shall now move into executive session for purpose of discussing the employment history of a particular person. Attendance at this executive session shall include non-board member Christian Zabriskie and Heidi Holtz.
Second.
I need a second.
Second.
I don't know who that was.
Lenore.
I can't see. Thank you, Lenore.
Yep.
Can someone call the roll, please?
I can't do it. I don't have all the names here.
okay, Jill,
Yes.
Lenore,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Etta,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Tim.
Aye.
I'm looking, I think that was everybody except me, and I'm in favor.
Okay. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, I think I have everyone. Okay, let me open the room and I will be in a moment. It looks like we're the only people here. Everyone
It
else
does.
left. Okay.
But I think we do need to report that no action was taken in executive session.
That's true. If there's no other discussion, nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, second.
That was Ed and Lenore.
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Anybody else want to stay longer?
Thank you very much,
Wonderful
everyone. I
to
really
see you
appreciate it.
all. Everybody have a good night.
Hi,
You
thank
too.
you.
Thank
Jill,
you.
you need to
Bye.
inform Gail what we just did.
I will. I wrote it
Okay.
down.
Very good. Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Tim, great to
Thank
see you.
Bye-bye.
Take
Good
care.
job.